What are the excuses that you've made for yourself that have kept you back from having the success that you truly want? Success comes when we stop accepting the excuses that we want to make for ourselves. You see, successful people realize that a lot of times excuses are the things, the mental constructs that we make that hold us back from taking action and becoming the person that we want to be. And I think this is really important as we're in the final 10-day stretch of our 90-day experiment. And so I wanted you to take a look back and think about what excuses did you have at the very beginning to think that this was not possible and you would never get to this point? Were the excuses something like maybe you just didn't have enough time, you weren't really sure what you wanted to do, you didn't have enough energy to do it, you didn't have a plan, you weren't sure if you could really stay consistent with this because you're a procrastinator, right? What excuses did you make? And what excuses did you have to overcome? So did you finally just put your foot down one day and say, you know what? I've had it. I'm going to take action for 90 days. I don't care what happens. I'm going to clear my schedule of everything I need to do. And I'm going to focus on this one thing. Because if I can focus on this one thing for 90 days and get just a little bit better every single day, I'm going to have won. Regardless of if I've made the $1 million I wanted to, or regardless of if I've had this overwhelming success, if I could just do something for 90 days and stay committed to it, I'll have won. So that would be overcoming a lot of really big excuses. So what excuses did you have to overcome in order to get to this point? Take a moment, just reflect on that. Realize any of those excuses that you've overcame, that's a win. Might be multiple wins. And then the next question is going to be, what other excuses do you still have right now that you still need to overcome? Excuses are something that happen all the time. I still make excuses all the time. It's really crazy. The excuses that I've made as of recent were, there were times that just to make this video, I would think to myself, I would wait way too long in the day. I wouldn't take action on looking at what am I going to talk about in the video. And then I would start thinking, it's getting really late. I'm getting tired. I don't think I can do this today. It's probably not going to make a big difference if I skip a day. There's probably not going to be a lot of people that are going to watch it, right? These are all excuses that started coming up. I could just do it tomorrow. I'll just do 2 extra, I'll just do a second video rather than trying to put one out today. But those were excuses. And the thing that I had to tell myself is saying, no, that's not a valid excuse. I get that you're tired, but this means that there was something that should have happened earlier in the day. You should have made that time in order to take action and create the content for the day. Something should have happened at a different point in order for you to have an easier time right now. And if you didn't do that, then that's your fault, but you have to take action right now. We can't leave today open as a 0. We've talked about this before, about not leaving the day a 0. Just not showing up that day, right? Even if it didn't work out the best that you thought it could, at least you showed up. And so a lot of times, the most recent ones have been me waiting until the last minute and then deciding, man, I have to do this. And at least I didn't let the excuses win. It might not have been the best, but it tells me this is what you need to do differently next time to make sure that things flow smoothly. Because that's what we want. We want things to flow smooth and easy. We want success to happen the easiest way possible. But that can only happen when we actually confront the excuses we have and figure out a different way of doing things. See, success happens when we stop letting our excuses define the action that we're going to take and who we're going to become. We have excuses for everything on why we can't be the people that we want to be and why we can't do the things that we want to do. And a lot of times that's just our imagination trying to tell us, you can't do this because we've never done anything like that before. And who knows if it's going to be successful or not. Let's think of all the reasons that we could fail. Let's think of all the embarrassing things that are going to happen, all the rejection that we're going to feel. Let's think about losing status in the eyes of the people that we care about most. Or even worse, losing status in the eyes of people we've never even met before. But those are all excuses. But it does direct our action. If we let it, if we buy into those excuses, it's going to direct us to become somebody different that we don't want to be. We become a person that makes excuses rather than a person that takes action and just figures out the solution rather than letting the problem define who it is we're going to become. So let me tell you about another time that I've really made a lot of excuses on this. Excuses for me came in the form of, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Because whatever it was, I couldn't make this video today. When I first started out making videos, I would continually keep hitting stop. I would start talking. I would talk for about 3 minutes maybe, and then I would lose track of where I was going. I would hit stop, I would erase it, and I would try again. And then I would do the exact same thing over and over for about 10 to 12 times before I finally decide, okay, this isn't working. And I would just hit stop, and I was just completely frustrated. I said, this isn't working, I'm not going to do it, and I gave up for the rest of the day. So I let the excuses get in the way. This isn't perfect. I don't know where I'm going. I'm losing my place. I can't figure out what I want to say. All of these different excuses came up when it was really just an imagination. It was my imagination that it wasn't great. Now, was it actually great? Probably not, but that wasn't really what mattered. What mattered is that you actually created a video and put it up and published it so people could see it. Because if you keep creating tons of videos that you never publish, nobody's ever going to see it. If you keep getting tons of diet plans or tons of new exercise programs that you never bother using more than a couple of days, your life is never going to change. If you want to start being a writer and you're only writing 1 or 2 pages here and there, and then you just give up for the next year, your book is never going to get written. It's the same thing. If you want to have success, you got to push out of the way all of those excuses that you have that are keeping you where you are. So think about that. And this might be, you might have some excuses that you haven't even thought about. You never even thought that that was the type of thing. You know, if your goal is to start meeting new people or maybe meeting a new romantic partner, you're saying, I'm too afraid to go over and start talking to the people that I find attractive. That's something where you kind of look at it and go, well, what's your excuse? Well, I'm too ugly. They're not going to like me, blah, 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 blah. Those are just excuses because you have no idea what other people are actually going to think. You can imagine what they think, but that's not really what they think. You can't make the what's the word I'm looking for? You can't make up their mind for them. You want to actually let them make up their mind. Let them make the choice. Because if we start making the choice for them, then we're left dead in the water because we're making the wrong choice for somebody else. Now, we're getting off track here. Let's get back to some excuses. So, looking at the excuses that we make, I want you to realize one really big thing. An excuse is just a problem that you haven't solved yet. And this might be a problem that doesn't even exist, but in your mind it does. And if it exists in your mind, it's enough of a problem that you need to solve it. So it looks like a problem that we just have to solve. So what are some of the excuses that one can possibly make? Well, they break down into 3 categories of excuses. And anytime that we make this excuse, we're giving the power that we have away to something else. We're giving that power to control our lives to something else outside of our control. And as long as we do that, we become powerless, right? We lose our power. We lose control over our lives and the direction, the action that we take. because we're giving our power away to something else. And so the first thing that we look at, well, there's three of them. The first one is usually circumstances. So circumstances are whatever is going on in your life right now. That could be time, it could be money, it could be just the job that you have, any of the excuses that we make of something outside of ourselves. I'm going to do this tomorrow because I just don't have the money to do it today. I'm going to start tomorrow because I just don't have the time to do it today. My job, I'm where I am because my job sucks and it's not paying me enough, right? These are all different things outside of yourself. So as long as we give power to something outside of ourselves, to other circumstances, we start putting ourselves in a really tough position to take action because there's some reason, there's an obstacle that stands in front of us. And it's an obstacle that we need to have a solution to. So let's take time, for example. If it's time that is the issue, then we have to start looking at, well, where in our schedule can we create more time? Where in our schedule can we find the time to actually do the thing that we want to do? So let's take exercise, for example. If somebody says, I can't get in shape because I don't have the time to exercise. Well, the question is can you get up an hour earlier? Can you set your alarm and wake up an hour earlier to go get exercise in? Because if the rest of your day is so jam-packed that you cannot find the time to do it, you have to make the time to do it. And that could be finding that time at the beginning of the day. Could be going out on the lunch break, and instead of going to lunch and eating something unhealthy, you're going to start going to the gym instead. It's finding the time to actually do it. It's chiseling it out. And it comes down to how important is it to you? If it came down to money, the question becomes, well, what are you spending your money on? Are you spending it on stuff that doesn't move you forward toward your goal? Or are you spending it on things that actually can move you closer to your goal? So is it like you're spending money on just going out and eating all the time and you're spending it all there? Or are you spending it on hiring yourself a coach, somebody that can help you get to where you want to be? So this is figuring out what's a good solution to the excuse we're making about the circumstances we find ourselves in. Now, most people aren't going to just outright see this, but anytime that you start having that idea in your head, that it's something outside yourself that's the reason why you're not successful right now. If it is, I don't know enough, I don't have enough information, then it's okay, well, where can you get that information that you need? Sometimes it is, I just don't feel confident enough. And those types of things, you can figure that out. It's just a problem that we need a solution to. So second thing is going to be others. Other people outside yourself, whether that's your boss, whether that is your romantic partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, kids, whomever. Any single time that you have somebody else as being the reason that you can't be successful, that you can't do the thing you want to do, you have to take a step back and say, okay, how can we solve this problem? If the problem is spending time with your kids, you've got to find out what points can you really spend time with them and make that time count versus saying the only time that I can do the thing that I want to do just happens to fall in the exact same time that I have to spend with my kids, right? That's just an excuse. This is also known as a distortion of reality. This is when, if you think about looking into a funhouse mirror and it makes you look like you're really, really tall, or makes you look like you're short, or makes you look like you're fat, right? It's a distortion. It distorts reality. Thinking that you only have this time, right now, this moment, the time that I got to spend with my kids is the exact same time I want to work out, right? That's a distortion. You can find time in other areas of your life that you can do it if you really want to. Any of the times where it would be, I have to spend time with family. I've got to go to work, and it's my boss that's taking that is standing in the way of me progressing. Then we have to figure out, well, what's the thing that we can do? Do you just make an excuse that, let's say it's your boss and he doesn't want to give you a raise? You say, my boss hates me, but my boss doesn't want to give me a raise. Well, the question is are you providing enough value that you're worthy of getting a raise? A lot of times people aren't just going to give you a raise just because you've been there long enough. They've got to say, well, what skills do you have that make you more valuable than this other person over here? So anytime that we look at that and we say, it's my boss that's standing in my way of success. It's my family. It's my kids. It's somebody else outside of me that's standing in the way of success. We have to take a step back and say, is it really that person? Or is there a problem that we need to overcome? Is there an imagined problem that we need to fix right now? And how can we fix it? Because when you start looking at what solutions you can have, that's when these excuses become non-existent. Because we're looking at what's the solution to this problem. I'm going to get this. Whatever your goal is, I'm going to get it no matter what. If there isn't a path to get it, I'm going to make a path. That's when you start pushing those excuses aside and you start looking for solutions. You start looking for those solutions to the problems that are facing you. So we've got our circumstances, we've got other people, and then we have ourselves. What excuses do we make for ourselves? Saying, again, I'm not smart enough. I can't do it. I've never done anything like that before. I'm too dumb. I'm too ugly. I'm too whatever. Whatever the case is, I'm not confident enough. I'm a procrastinator. Those are all excuses. Those are all excuses that need great solutions. So if you're a procrastinator, what is it that you can do to make that a non-issue? Where do you find yourself procrastinating most? If you feel like you don't know enough, where can you learn information that pushes you ahead toward where you want to be? If you feel like you just don't have the confidence that you want to have, well, how can you feel more confident? What is it going to take for you to take that step forward and have that confidence that you need? Because as long as we let any of these things stop us from getting to the goal that we want, we've given our power away to those things. And we can't get what we want if we don't step into our power first. So here's something I want you to start doing. The first step to overcoming excuses is to realize when they're happening. So anytime that you've got something that you need to do, you know it's going to be a high leverage action that's going to get you closer to where you want to be, and you want to push that off for some reason, I want you to ask yourself, is this excuse real or am I imagining it? Because if it's imagined, it's going to be something where the reality is not actually real. So let's take, for example, you're going to say you're going to start creating more content tomorrow. And you're saying, I just don't know enough, right? Is that really true or is that imagined? Well, I'm going to say it's imagined because you know plenty of things about plenty of topics that you could create a video on. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not. But then again, that's also because you're just starting. Is it reasonable for you to be perfect right now? No, you're just starting. Is it reasonable for these videos that I'm making to be perfect? Absolutely not. I'm just starting out. I'm learning new things. And learning is not an excuse to not start. So you can start that. So that would be an imagined thing. Now, what about for a real excuse? Well, a real excuse, something that would be an actual thing that's happening, is saying, I need to drive across the country and I don't have a car, right? That's actually physically going to stop you from achieving the goal that you want. But now the question becomes, how badly do you want that goal? How badly do you need to achieve this? If somebody had a gun to your head, or even worse, a gun to one of your children's head, somebody that you care about so much, and said, you need to figure out how this is going to work. You need to make this happen. I guarantee you would have more motivation to get that done. Those excuses would be non-existent because you have a reason to do it. And the reason that you have to do it is much greater than your imagination for all the reasons on why you can't. You see, excuses, if we let them, they're going to stop us. There are the imagined obstacles that we have that stand in our way from getting what it is we really want. And until we erase those excuses from our vocabulary, until we erase those excuses from our mind, we're not going to take that first step forward. But this is where you can become super successful, is by saying, when something like that comes up and it pushes you away from taking action, you can say, I know this is an excuse. I know I'm making this excuse up right now, and I'm not going to let it stop me. Let's figure out a solution. Is this thing actually real, or am I just making this up? Am I just giving myself a reason to try to avoid doing anything that would get me closer to what I want? And when you realize that it's just an imagination, when you realize it's just an illusion, it's an imagined obstacle in front of you, that's when you can come back to reality and say, it's imagined, I see it, it's scary, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm not going to let this excuse stop me. And that's when you bring yourself back up. You put yourself in a better state. It's just like we were talking about yesterday. You put yourself in that good state. And then all of a sudden, you can start moving forward more powerfully than you ever have before. And when you start moving forward powerfully and you push those excuses aside, you can accomplish amazing things. And it's all just one step at a time. Little by little, you become better and you become stronger every single day. So I hope this gives you some ideas on what excuses you have that you got to push outside, right? Those excuses don't matter. Stop letting them dictate who you can be. Stop letting them keep you from doing the things that you want to do. Instead, start looking at solutions to those excuses. Start looking for the reasons why you can succeed instead of all the reasons why you can't. Because you deserve it. It's important for you to reach your goals, and you deserve it. And the best way for you to do that is realizing that you deserve it and getting rid of all the excuses that make you think that you can't. Because remember, excuses, just problems we haven't solved yet. And many of those things are very easy to solve once you realize it's only an excuse. So, I will see you again tomorrow. I'm excited to have these conversations with you. I'm excited that we're in the final stretch, the last 10 days of our 90-day experiment. And on the very 90th day, we're going to just kind of recap and go over everything that we've learned and the experience that we had. We want to just kind of debrief on that. It's going to be amazing. I'm really looking forward to it. So, wipe those excuses out of your way. Start taking action. Take those steps forward. Until I see you tomorrow, remember, be well and take action now.